Hello dear viewer, I'm leesusss, and welcome to the Ring of Pain, a card-based dungeon crawl. It's a pretty good, just a few videos on this, but it's an interesting one I've played recently, and oh dear, noises. Maybe that's a bit loud. Should we turn the music down a little bit? Yeah, a game I've played a few times recently, and I've enjoyed quite a bit, although it's not easy. I've been frustrated by it as well, but anyway, we'll see that as we get into it. It's got an interesting mechanic in here, and as you can probably judge from it, quite a creepy aesthetic, which I think you'll appreciate. So, I'm not playing from the very start, by the way, as well. As you play, you unlock new things, like new cards. You can see over here the collection, 234 out of 348. It's more fun to be in here. You can see more of the content by if I start part of the way through. But essentially, at the start of the game, you are awoken apparently out of darkness, maybe birthed, maybe woken out of darkness. I'm not sure, and met by a disturbing creature called the Owl, who we will see at fairly early on in the game. And the instruction is simply to carry the candle to the end of the dungeon. There we go. Should we get started, and then we can start going through how this all works. Okay, ignore this stuff for now. What we're going to do first is talk about the stats and everything else on here. So, over here, starting down here, we have our life bar, and we have a number of stats such as our attack, our defense, speed, and clarity. Attack and defense are fairly obvious. I think we're gonna be battling creatures at various times, and it's a fairly simple calculation. Your attack minus the target's defense means how much damage you do, and vice versa. We'll come into piercing later, but vice versa for damage to us. Speed is about who acts first in a combat, and it affects dodge and stealth as well, which are values over here. And then clarity is an odd one. I was going to say it compares a little bit to luck, but probably not really. It's got its own thing, but essentially it's the kind of the order fourth stat that applies to many different things in the game. Now all of these four here, in fact 5 here, life as well, can all be affected within the game by picking up items, and also by choosing stat up and stat down cards as we go through. The 3 over here, you can't generally affect them by stat up and stat down. Instead, items will affect them, and then these will also be affected by the primary stats over here. So we have critical hit chance, we see clarity's affecting there, we have dodge chance, that's pretty obvious what that means, and affected particularly by speed, but also by your items. And lastly, stealth chance, the chance of passing hostile creatures. And talking of equipment, we're down here. We have loads of slots, including the candle, which we can't drop, that has to be there. Loads of items we can pick up as we go through to affect us in various different ways. And I think you can probably guess in games like this, there's a variety. There's the standard ones that do a little bit of, a bit of armour, does a little bit of plus on, maybe it slows you down a bit, gives you more armor, that kind of thing. And some of them are particularly wacky, that do radical, massive changes to how you play and your stats, and often lead to particular synergies that maybe are successful to get through the game. Okay, so that's the general bits and pieces down here, and up here we have souls, which is basically money. Souls from killing things, amongst usually, but from other sources as well. I'm going to spend these to get elsewhere. It's a weird looking thing. It looks like a nest, doesn't it? And bear in mind that the other character you know in the game is the Owl. Maybe that's not a surprising reason. Okay, so in front of us we actually have a ring. It may not be obvious it's a ring yet, but it is a ring. And we have 2 cards in front of us. We have a potion, and we have what is this thing called again? A rot hound. I always think of it like ratty, but it's a rot hound. This is one of the creatures that you meet in the dungeon. This is dungeon 1. Although it's a ring, which we'll see in a minute, it's not actually the Ring of Pain. We will see that in a moment. But this is the first dungeon, and potion here gives us a bit of health back. Nice and straightforward, simple from here. And here's a rat, that thing, the rot hound that we can fight. But we're not going to fight it. Instead, we're going to pass this card. And you can see the whole thing rotates. So it's a ring. There's a ring of cards. There's another rot hound, a bigger one over here as well. And here we start to see some of the cards that you meet in the game. This scary looking thing here, despite how vicious it's looking, it's a mimic, actually completely harmless. It's a treasure chest. We're going to open it up. There we go. We've got a choice of 2 items. And this is what I meant about the stats thing. So here's a heat shield, which has the basic effect of increasing your defense and your speed, and it also has the extra text of it will stop an explosion 3 times, and then once it's run out, it doesn't vanish. It you still maintain the defense and the speed, but you no longer get the explosion effect afterwards. So we can grab this. This is quite nice. Goes in our shield slot. We've got the mushrooms, which is another usable item. This is you get a few in jars like this. The jar slot down here. And this particular one gives us 1 health every time we leave the dungeon. Because that's what we want to do here. We want to finish this dungeon here and get out. And when we do, we'll gain 1 max health. Very nice. But if we got some off, we'd probably take one of these. But if we got a slightly kind of crappy one, we can re-roll for free, and that will get more expensive later. So do we like these items here? Explosions. I'm obviously forewarned about this. I know how some of the game works. This is quite a nice one. It gives us a bonus in speed and strength. And this is very good. But there are better jars. So I think we're going to take the shield and get our bonus to our speed and our defense, and then our shield's there for the explosions. And the game is very good at communicating with you. And we'll see more of that in a minute. So over here, actually they're both ones. They're not the little, you get smaller rot hounds than this. Unfortunately, we've got a bigger one here. We're going to have to take some damage here and deal with this. But anyway, it's a good example of how fights work. So if we look at the card more closely, we can see things about the character. So the creature's attack is a physical and a piercing damage. So the physical, pretty obvious. It's got an attack of 4. We have a defense of 3. And in fact, if we hover over it as if we were going to attack it, you can see that on the bottom left, it will do 2 damage to us. And it will do 2 damage to us because it breaks our defense by 1. And it has piercing damage, which ignores your primary defense stat. And will do 1 damage anyway. Except in the case where your defense is higher than their standard attack. I say, by the way, yes, they all make creepy noises of various sorts. while you're hovering over them and while you're just looking at them, we'll appreciate that more in some of the other creatures. This is fairly normal compared to some of the creatures. So, if, for example, we had a defense of 5, we would block all of their standard physical damage, but the piercing goes through. That's when parry comes in. Because our defense was 5 and higher than therefore attack, our over defense that we have would affect the chances of parrying the piercing damage. Okay? Nice and clear from there. So we'll see that more and more as we go through and factor that into our how we want to change and expand our character. Also here we have this creature has 1 defense. So when we looked at this here, we can see we've got an attack of 3. It's got a defense of 1, therefore we would do 2 damage every hit. Okay? And then the creature's got a speed of 5. That determines who goes first. And if we kill it, we will get 2 souls, not affected by clarity. If we had more clarity than we have here, we would earn more souls from it. And this is the point about the speed here. If I click on it now, the game will decide who gets to hit first. If my speed was high, then I'd hit it. Then if the creature was still alive, it would hit me back. And vice versa. We have to get past it though, because these are probably character cards, creature cards over here. These are bonus cards over here. And if you're unlucky, you can take a lot of damage in the first dungeon. We're going to see what we can do right here. We have to hit this thing. We've got no other options. We're going to hit it and see how well we get on. Well, we can guess how we're going to get on. We are going to hit it 3 times. Up to 3 times. It's going to hit us up to 3 times. Yeah? There we go. He's getting hit first, and then, oh well, we took 6 points of damage. We've got a potion here that we can heal up a little bit, but right here we have the smaller version. We have a Gnawling. Now the Gnawling's a smaller version of the Rot Hound. He still has 4 attack, but he has no piercing. Therefore, if our defense was high enough at 4, this thing could not hurt us. Sadly, that is not the case. So we're going to have to fight it. We're going to take a couple of points of damage. Health's get a bit lower now, but we'll ignore that for now. We're okay. This is a stat up card, and there's different sorts of these. But you can see here, if we click on this card, and of course we can pass it from there, we can improve our defense, or our speed, or our health. This is where decisions start to get tricky. We're not actually going to make a choice about this yet. We're going to see what's in the box over here. And the answer is some interesting items. Crossed Heart, 1 more attack, 2 more health. 2 more health from potions. Now, by the way, over here, notice that one of the effects of clarity is it increases how much health you get from potions. So if your clarity starts to fall very low, you get very little healing from potions. And vice versa, if you get a high clarity run, it's very easy to heal yourself. Right? So this gets around this a little bit. So at this point here, we could say to ourselves, hey, you know what? Maybe clarity isn't so important for us from here. But this one also does very similar. Does 2 attack but we get one more from health potions, but we lose some clarity. Either way, right now we're at very low stats. I would just like to be a bit tougher, so we can do that. This guy here is still going to hurt us. Actually, no, it isn't, and not anymore. Look up here, because we now do 5 damage. I didn't look at my stats carefully. I've got to be careful about this, by the way. I can get, after I've been playing for a while on my own, I get lazy and I forget to check things carefully. And if I'm talking to you, you know what? I get even lazier. I'm distracted about flapping my chops instead of looking at things carefully. So right now, this gnawing, we're faster than him, and we do more damage than his defense, so we instantly kill it. And another one. Ooh, a different sort of enemy. This is the Fire Hive. Notice it has no attack, but it does have piercing. It does have some defense, and it's got a speed of 3. But it won't actually do anything to us. It can, like the Gnawlings, we could sit there looking at it as much as we like, and it's not going to do anything. We can go away, we can come back, it's not going to do anything to us. But if we hit it, it's going to explode. And it's quite easy to kill, but it would do 6 damage to us. Yeah? Except it doesn't. It would normally, but remember, we picked up the heat shield earlier, so we could kill this and not take the hit. Question is, do we want to do that? What's it worth if we kill it? 5 souls. Kind of important right now. So we could just potentially kill it, because 5 souls is not worth much later in the game. It's kind of important now. So we could probably just take this hit here and do it later. Should we do that? We could do that. Or, here's the other option. What if we don't want to fight things? We can sneak past them. So if we're passing to the right of a creature on our right, over here, or to the left of a creature on the left-hand side of the screen, the 2 cards here, there's the option to sneak past them without getting hit. If we fail to sneak, it will hit us anyway. Yeah, it gets a free attack on us. So we have to factor this in. And if we see down here, our stealth is 23%. 1 in 5. It's not a great chance, is it really? So we'll probably come back and kill this. But it's something to bear in mind when moving around. Now, of course, this thing doesn't actually have any main attack, but it does have 1 piercing. So sneaking past it, even though it's an inanimate blob, it'll still give us a little sneaky poke on the way past. Yeah? Although, remember what I said about attacks and defences, because it's got no primary attack, our defence of 3 counts fully against its piercing attack. So the little symbol on the left there, the shield symbol, we've got a 25% chance of parrying that 1 piercing damage. And this is all making sense, by the way, because I've played this game quite a few times, so it can't make sense after a while. You learn as you go. But I'm sure you're very smart. You're a very smart person. I'm sure you know what I mean. But I'm just saying, sometimes I think back on these things, and am I talking nonsense, or am I making myself clear? Anyway, so we're going to punch this thing to get the 5 souls, not take any damage because of our heat shield. And in fact, if you look behind, remember, this is a ring, and explosions go to either side. So a creature here will splash us, because it's in front of us. It will attack here, which won't do anything against the exit, and it will hit the creature behind. So in fact, you can see in the back the 6 damage will not only not hurt us, but kill the Rot Hound. And that's the sort of tactics we need to use as we go through. Right, before we eat this potion and then leave through the exit, what are we going to do here? We're starting to progress in a particular direction. We've got a couple of items. It's not exactly a game choice in our strategy, is it? But we've had an idea of maybe where we want to go to. What's important next? What are we lacking? If we were to click on this, what would we do? And health would be nice, but you know, I think we're alright for now. What are we a bit lacking? A bit more speed would be good, so we always beat the other creatures. But you know what? Our defense is still a bit low. We haven't had much buff to defenses. We've got 1 point here. Early on in the game, unless you've got a really amazing item you pick up early, maybe a bit more generalist is probably what I would do. So I'm going to pick the buff up of the defense. Okay, and I'm going to drink the potion, which will give me 4 points. Glug, and then we're going to go into the next area. Or rather, we're not. We're going to go to the Ring of Pain itself. This is the Ring of Pain, okay? You saw the brief start of it there. The 1 step. There's 16 steps to get to the end of the dungeon. But we went straight into the second area, which always happens like this. It always steps into here. And here is Owl. I don't know what you were picturing when I said Owl earlier. He's the character. If you've seen this game advertised before, usually this lovely fella's face is what they put on the front page. And he's a real treat, isn't he? We won't worry about Owl much till later. Owl is kind of our guide, but also not necessarily very nice as far as that goes. So in second dungeon you always come to in the Ring of Pain, or the second step rather, is a free gift from Owl. It could be anything that you've unlocked. And here we have the Poison Dagger. And of course, poison's an effect. Of course, poison's in the game. You know what these games are like. But it has a downside to it. It does 2 poison on attack, but we lose an attack itself. Yeah, and it gives us more speed. So is this good or bad? Well, you don't know how poison works, so you're not sure yet. But the answer is, if you were to poison someone with 2 points of poison damage, what it means is that they take 2 points of poison on the first round, and that drops by 1. Drops by 1 each time, as the text on the right says. So they would take another point of damage later, and then finally they would die. So in fact, we can do things like we could poke them with the dagger, and then walk away, if that's possible, and hopefully let them die off screen. So this is not bad. I don't like losing an attack, but the speed buff is nice. We're more likely to get that first hit